29. Ovrim sat in meditation, his mind attempting to find ease. It was too late to help the man. All he could do was focus his own mind. The rock of the high shelf dug into him, but he did not feel it. He let his guilt and his fear and his weakness flow over him like the waves of a storm. Each breath brought relief. Each wave grew less toxic. Eventually, he found peace again. His ancient demons chased back into the dark depths of his soul. For now. He reached out for the ether and spread his thoughts through it. Then he felt the elf. Somehow the man was still alive. A shudder of shock and hope flowed through his body. Ovrim forced himself to focus. Maybe I can still help, he thought. He could feel the arbaleth's stained and rancid thoughts focused into a pinprick weapon. Ovrim molded his thoughts into a field of warmth and life and hope and settled it down on the drowning man. It wasn't much, but perhaps it would be enough. Time lost temporary meaning as he became comfort and ease. He pulled his attention away from the battle. He was of no use if he could not remain calm. The Zaidai became warmth and hope and strength flowing into the man. He was only a sprinkle of rain against a raging wildfire, but he was something. Ovrim let himself become one with the ether. He was no longer singular. He was part of the all. Heartbeats passed like centuries, breaths like ages. He was both always and never, and still he held to his task. Then a pulse of shock and anguish flashed outward, a nova of rage that exploded before collapsing unto itself and disappearing. The arbaleth was dead. Ovrim's eyes opened in shock. He stood and stared down at the water as the last ripples of battle settled to calm. Where was the man? Had he succumbed? Ovrim reached through the water and found the barest pinprick of life distorting the calm of the ether. The man was alive, but drowning. Ovrim shared his strength, hoping it was enough. For a moment, Ovrim feared it was not enough. But then, thoughts returned, and the spark became a fire. He stood, waiting to see the man emerge from the depths. Long minutes passed, and he did not surface. What was he doing? Ovrim sat again and waited. Whoever this man was, he was of an odd character. Was he friend or foe? The shock of the arbaleth's presence had so overwhelmed Ovrim that he had not considered the man's nature. Was he a source of evil or a force for good? He possessed a Godhead. How was that even possible? Was he wrong in aiding this latent god? Had his mind been so warped by his hatred and fear of the ethereal abomination that he had overlooked a greater threat? These were the thoughts that raged in Ovrim's mind as the man finally emerged from the depths. He did not look like much, near drowned and so exhausted that he collapsed to his knees the moment he climbed onto the island. He swayed back and forth as he inhaled a lungful of air. He was shaking. Fear? Adrenaline? Cold? He seemed confused, disoriented. Finally, he seemed to gain control over himself as a look of peace came over him. Then he screamed a scream few had ever heard. Ovrim knew that scream, and fear stabbed at his soul. The man gasped and then fell forward onto his face. Ovrim saw the pulsating slug-like creature as it sank spiny tendrils into the back of the man's head. "Ilurith," Ovrim said in anguish. The arbaleth larva had infected the elf's brain. Soon it would feed upon it and replace his mind with an ethereal abomination, a sorcerer in service of the arbaleth. The man was dead. Nothing could stop the metamorphosis, the process of consumption that resulted in a sentient being becoming the pure evil of the Ilurith. He would be reborn as something else, a malevolence unlike any the realms had ever seen, an Ilurith in possession of a Godhead. Before rational thought could stop him, Ovrim pulled his bow from his shoulder. He nocked an arrow and drew back, focusing both mana and stamina into his shot. The arrow burned with the blue aura of thought magic. He closed one eye, and the stamina flowed into Viper Sting, an archery perk that increased both damage and the chance to hit. "Shall you be reborn at peace?" Ovrim said, putting his heart into the traditional prayer for the soul of the dead. He let fly, and his aim was true. The arrow pierced both larva and man at the base of the neck, instantly slaying two minds.